In 1998, a guy in Indiana welded a windshield washer pump to a 1-gallon tank, ran a hose to a fitting on his intake manifold, filled the tank with a 50-50 mix of distilled water and racing methanol, and added 85 horsepower to a stock Dodge Cummins. He didn't change the tune, he didn't change the turbo, he didn't change a single internal part. The whole setup cost him $300 at a hardware store. His exhaust gas temperatures dropped 200 degrees. His engine ran cooler than the day it left the factory. And the EPA is now trying to make it illegal. This is the diesel hack that has been hiding in plain sight for 40 years. Sled pullers know about it. Truckers know about it. The aftermarket sells the kits at Summit Racing and AutoZone. It is not a secret in the diesel community. It is also not what most diesel owners get told about when they walk into a shop asking how to make their truck pull harder without melting it. This is the story of water-methanol injection, how it works, why it works better than almost any other modification you can do to a diesel for the money, why sled pullers running 1,500 horsepower engines refuse to leave the line without it, and why the federal government has decided a 1-gallon tank of windshield washer fluid mounted in your truck bed might be a defeat device. Start with the basics. A diesel engine makes power by injecting fuel into a hot column of compressed air. The air gets compressed, the fuel gets sprayed in, the mixture ignites from the heat of compression alone. There are no spark plugs, there is no ignition timing in the way a gas engine has ignition timing. What there is heat. A diesel under load gets hot. The exhaust gas temperature, what diesel guys call EGT, is the single most important number on the dashboard of a tuned truck. EGT goes up, pistons start cracking. EGT goes up high enough, you melt the turbocharger. EGT goes up far enough, you crack the head, you punch a hole at a piston, you destroy the engine. Most diesel performance modifications do exactly one thing well. They add fuel. More fuel equals more power. More fuel also equals more heat, which is why a stock Cummins or Power Stroke or Duramax will tow a horse trailer up a mountain pass for the rest of its life. But that same truck with a chip and big injectors will eat itself in 2 years if the owner does not watch the gauges. Water-methanol injection breaks that math. Here is what actually happens when you spray a 50-50 mix of water and methanol into the intake of a turbocharged diesel under boost. The water hits the hot compressed intake air after the turbocharger. It evaporates almost instantly. Evaporation is endothermic. It pulls heat out of the air. The intake charge gets dramatically cooler, denser, more oxygen-packed. That alone is worth horsepower. Cooler air, more oxygen, the diesel can burn more fuel cleanly without overheating. Then the methanol burns. Methanol is a fuel. It has roughly half the energy density of diesel fuel by volume, but it burns clean, it burns cool, and it burns at a different rate than diesel. The diesel combustion event becomes a longer, smoother push on the piston instead of a sharp hammer hit. Then, the water that did not fully evaporate in the intake hits the combustion chamber, flashes to steam under combustion pressures, and physically pushes down on the piston as expanding gas. You are now making torque from a substance that is technically not a fuel. 3 things happening at once: charge cooling, a second fuel, steam expansion, all from a fluid that costs less than diesel fuel per gallon. Numbers from Diesel World magazine on real-world dyno tests with a Cummins, a Power Stroke, and a Duramax. A street kit, 50-50 mix, properly tuned. Power gains between 35 and 75 horsepower. Exhaust gas temperature drops between 100 and 300 degrees. Fuel economy improvement between half a mile per gallon and 2 miles per gallon, depending on how the truck gets driven. $300. Bolt-on, no tune required. Reversible. The truck runs identically with the system off. There is no chip in the computer, there is no flash on the engine control unit. There is just a tank, a pump, a nozzle, and a switch. Now, where this came from. This is not a hack somebody invented in a forum in 2003. This trick is older than the diesel pickup itself. Tractor pullers and sled pullers have been running water injection on competition diesels since the 1980s. The pulling community runs the most violently abused diesel engines on planet Earth.
We are talking about engines that are 13,000 horsepower for a 30-second pull, with exhaust temperatures that can melt steel. Scheid Diesel in Terre Haute, Indiana, largest sled-pulling parts manufacturer in the country. They build water injection kits that pump 12 gallons per minute through 6 nozzles, designed to cool engines making between 800 and 1,400 horsepower. The kits are purpose-built because nothing else on the market can move enough water fast enough to keep those engines from blowing up on the track. A pulling truck without water injection is a pulling truck that lasts one season. A pulling truck with water injection is a pulling truck that runs for years. That is the data point the rest of the diesel world should have been paying attention to. The most extreme diesel application on Earth refuses to leave the line without this stuff. Whatever the EPA says about it, whatever a tuner shop says about it, the people running engines at the absolute edge of what an iron block can survive are unanimous. Water-methanol injection works. In the daily driver world, it is the single best modification you can do to a diesel that you actually plan to use for work. Pull a fifth-wheel camper up a steep grade. Without water injection, your EGT climbs through 1,400 degrees, you back off the throttle. The engine stays hot longer. With water injection, your EGT stays under 1,200. You climb at full throttle, the engine cools as it works, and you arrive at the top of the pass with a turbocharger that is going to last another 100,000 miles.
Tow a 30-foot enclosed trailer at 75 miles per hour for 8 hours. Without water injection, your transmission cooler is full, your engine oil is hot, your fuel mileage is in the tank. With water injection, the engine is dropping the heat into the steam coming out the tailpipe instead of into the engine block. The aftermarket figured this out years ago. Snow Performance, AEM, Banks Power, Devil Zone. All of them sell street-legal kits in the $300 to $700 range. Some are basic boost-activated systems. Some are sophisticated multi-stage kits with progressive controllers and EGT-based triggers. The cheap ones work. The expensive ones work better. There's also a homemade version. The Indiana guy in the opening of this video. Windshield washer pump, 1-gallon tank, hose, fitting, switch. The diesel forums are full of guys who have been running homemade kits for 15 years on the same truck without ever rebuilding the engine. Now, the hard part. The fluid is a mix of water and methanol. The water is just distilled water. The methanol is the question. Where does the average diesel owner get methanol? The answer is the most off-the-shelf possible answer: heat. The yellow bottle of Fuel Line antifreeze you can buy at any gas station for $2. Heat is 99.8% methanol. Mix 1 bottle of heat with an equal volume of distilled water and you have racing-grade water-methanol injection fluid for less than $4. You can also buy pre-mixed water-methanol fluid by the gallon. Boostane, Boost Juice, Snow Performance's branded fluid. $8 to $15 a gallon. The diesel community has been buying this fluid by the case for decades. For a long time, nobody cared. The EPA had bigger problems than a guy in Indiana running a windshield washer pump on his Cummins. That changed in 2020. Then it changed harder in 2023. And then in January of 2026, the Department of Justice and the Environmental Protection Agency announced a coordinated effort against companies that sell what they are now calling diesel emissions defeat devices. The list of products in the announcement includes EGR delete kits, DPF delete kits, tuning software that bypasses emissions controls, and water injection systems sold for street use. Read that last one again. Water injection systems sold for street use. The same systems that lower exhaust gas temperatures, that extend the life of factory emissions equipment, that reduce particulate emissions, that improve fuel economy. The systems that on every measurable axis make a diesel cleaner, more efficient, and more reliable. Those systems are being lumped in with delete kits. The legal logic is technical and frustrating. The EPA's position is that any device that alters the emissions output of a vehicle from its certified factory configuration, even if it improves emissions, is technically a defeat device under the Clean Air Act. It does not matter that water injection makes a diesel cleaner. It matters that the manufacturer did not certify the truck with water injection installed.
The aftermarket is fighting this. Lawsuits are being filed. The diesel community has been organizing.
As of the time we are recording this video, the legal status of street-use water injection is in a gray zone. Sled pulling and competition use is fine. Closed-course racing is fine. The kit you bought 4 years ago and still use to tow your camper is in legal limbo. What does that mean practically? Right now, today, you can still buy a water-methanol injection from Snow Performance or Banks or Devil's Own or AEM or Shed. Right now, today, you can still install it on your truck. Right now, today, no inspector at any state emissions testing facility is checking for an aftermarket water injection nozzle in your intake. But the federal government has fired a shot across the bow. The companies selling these kits are being told, in writing, that the legal landscape is shifting. Some of them have started adding off-route use only disclaimers. Some of them have stopped selling certain configurations entirely. The diesel community is watching the same enforcement playbook that destroyed the EGR delete industry get rolled out slowly against the modification that everyone agrees actually makes diesels run cleaner. Here is the irony. A diesel engine equipped with water-methanol injection, running on a stock tune on factory injectors with all the emissions equipment intact, will produce less particulate matter, less nitrogen oxide on average, lower exhaust gas temperatures, and better fuel economy than the same truck without the system. The data on this is not contested. It is in the engineering literature. It is in the aftermarket marketing materials. It is in the dyno results published in Diesel World and Truck Trend for 20 years. The EPA's position is essentially that a cleaner running aftermarket modification is still a non-certified modification. The trucker pulling a horse trailer to a rodeo with a Snow Performance kit in the bed of his Power Stroke is doing the right thing for his truck, his engine, his emissions, and his fuel bill. He is, also, under a strict reading of current federal enforcement priorities, technically operating a vehicle with an aftermarket emissions-altering device. The cleanest solution to the problem of diesel emissions is being criminalized because it was not the solution the manufacturers shipped from the factory. $300, 85 horsepower, 200 degrees of EGT drop, 30 years of proof from the most demanding diesel application on Earth. Made illegal because it was too good. If you want to know what other diesel modifications the EPA has quietly come after in the last 3 years, watch the propane injection video next. Same audience, same lesson, same regulatory absurdity.